Welcome to the Boone Podcast. I'm Bret Boone, and today on the program, I sit down with an all-star and a World Series champion.
I sacrificed a lot to come to New York. I wanted to be a part of something special.
He made me a better player, a better person.
Roy Halladay is my guy, man. He was tough.
Welcome, everybody, to the Bret Boone Podcast, Turning 2 with Booney. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. There's my guy, Bret Boone, hitting coach from the Texas Rangers. Booney, welcome back to your podcast.
Unbelievable. Now, it's been a week, Rich. Probably in the last 3 or 4 years, I haven't had a week where I didn't do 2 or 3 podcasts, so it's different. It's funny, I popped it. We got back from Colorado last night, and we're getting off the bus and went into the locker room just for a minute. I got to meet a lot of the guys that work in the clubhouse, and there was handshakes. I've met so many people this week from the Texas Rangers. By the way, they've all been great. But I met them last night, and as I was leaving, I said, all right, guys, I'm going to go get some sleep. I'll see you tomorrow. And they asked me, they said, hey, you going to keep the podcast going? I said, yes, we are. I said, you never know. We might have a segment where we behind the scenes of the Texas Rangers. All the kids were laughing. It was pretty cool. But what a week, And I was prepared as it comes out of left field. I was prepared as I could be. But even Saturday morning, I got up and I thought, what the hell am I doing? Got on a plane, got to Boston. Boach was waiting for me at about 11:30 at night at check-in desk. I gave him a big hug, and
we're going to get to all of that. Let's go through sequentially, because I was in Washington D.C. this weekend and was hanging out with the Cardinal broadcast crew. Sween Dog,
Mark
was there. Mark Sweeney, Chip Carey. We all went to dinner. John Rooney, Ricky Horton, the whole crew. Everybody thrilled for you. Everybody in baseball excited to see you back in the game, working as a hitting instructor. But let's go back for just a bit. So we announced it last time we get together on the podcast. Once that announcement goes out, the press release goes out, it goes out in social media. I couldn't get a hold of you because your phone probably blew up, melted down, or just was overwhelmed. Tell me who you heard from. Tell me the reaction from your friends within the game.
I heard from people I haven't heard from in a long time. I heard from everybody, and it was all really positive, all really, wow. A lot of my good buddies were, because nobody really knew. And a lot of my good buddies were like, where the hell did this come from? I didn't, the biggest reaction was, we didn't think you were getting back in the game. I said, I wasn't. I just got a phone call. This was about as organic as it could be, the way it came about. And I was sitting on a plane. This is kind of the funny story, because I had last week on the Bret Boone podcast, I was supposed to have Jim Bowden, and we were going to take a ride around MLB and kind of break down the divisions. And Jimmy, I've known a long time. He's my general manager in Cincinnati for years, and
he once traded you.
Yeah, I was worried, because I'm like, Jim's pretty busy. He's a mover and a shaker. He's breaking news all the time. And we were scheduled to shoot the podcast on Tuesday morning, but they hadn't announced this yet. And I told Jimmy later when I talked to him, I said, I can't trust you to keep it a secret. And I was the biggest thing on my mind when I was getting on the plane was, I got to tell Jim that we're not shooting tomorrow. I didn't want to lie to him, but at the same time, what do I tell him the reason is that he's not coming on? And I got on the plane and I was sitting down, and I got a call from Chris Young, and he said, Booney, we're going to announce it soon. We got everything done. And I said, yeah, great. He said, as long as you're ready to go. I said, yeah, go ahead and announce it. I said, it's the perfect storm. I'm in the air. I don't have to answer all these questions. The problem was I had really good Wi-Fi. And about 5 minutes later, Bob Nightingale's calling. Jim Bowden's calling.
All these guys we've had on the podcast.
And Rosenthal's calling me. He's like, Booney, I'm hearing something. And I'm checking Twitter to see if it was announced, and it's not announced yet. But the insiders, they had the insider scoop, and I'm going, how do they know when it's not announced yet? So I just was radio silence, and I didn't say anything. And about 5 minutes later, I checked back, and then I saw it. So then I started texting him back. Yeah, I didn't know either. And and it was all really good. It was all really good. And then that started pouring in from my buddies and some of my, my close friends, and obviously my family knew. Aaron knew. But the for the most part, even people that I interact with on a weekly basis, they had no clue. To be honest with you, I didn't have time. I was worried about getting my luggage packed and getting my
Right.
car in position to get shipped, and I had a lot of different balls in the air. But we got to Boston. I remember I got to the ballpark then for the first time, meeting a bunch of people, and they've all been really good. And I thought it's getting close to the game. I'm down in the cage with the guys, and it was probably good the first day. It was raining. We didn't hit on the field, and I got to know these guys a little bit. And the one thing I wanted to do is I didn't want to come in and turn the lunch table over, say, I'm here and this is no. I wanted to kind of ease in, get to know these guys, get to know the coaching staff, uh, get to know the individuals. I think as much as numbers and metrics and video and all that's important, but getting to know people and I always talk about it, Rich, whether you're a manager, whether you're the CEO of a company, it's all about managing people and personalities and know what works for some guys and not for another guy. I've got veteran guys on this team and a Seager and a Simeon and DeGrom and Evaldi. These guys have been around, but then you've got some young players like an Evan Carter and a Wyatt Langford, very talented young players, but you interact different with them. They've had different journeys to this point, and my point is, hey, Marcus Simeon, you can help a young Wyatt Langford. You've got that intel. You've faced these guys before, so I've really slowly integrated myself. I'm about playing the game right. I'm about watching the game. That's the first thing I said. Watch the game. You'll be amazed what you'll learn by how they pitch other guys in the lineup that have a similar skill set to your own. That's what it's about. I love the video. I love watching your at bats and how he pitched you and where that pitch was and where it wasn't. But at the end of the day, you can't replace watching the game. And my personality, I'm giving them a little bit of my personality so when the guys come into the clubhouse, we have our little things we do, and I'm just looking to be a little bit part of this. And I'm a background player. I'm well aware these guys do it. When they hit, it's not because Bret Boone, it's because they can hit. And I also have to be very mindful and respectful that these guys won a World Series 2 years ago. A lot of the guys in these have a trophy in their house, and I respect that a lot. So I don't want to come to them that, oh, now all of a sudden, no, I'm just here to kind of reset because it's in there. The talent's there. We just change the atmosphere a little bit. And let's get this into a winning situation. And I'm here to share my experiences that I have. I got a lot to give to this game. I've got a lot of successes in this game, and I've got a good amount of failures as well. So the one thing I told them is guys, if anything else, I know every emotion that you can possibly feel on a baseball field. I know when you're 0 for your last 10 and we've lost 3 out of 4. I know that feeling. And I also know when we won 9 out of 10, and I can't, I'm skipping to the ballpark because I'm seeing the ball so good, and I know I'm going to get some hits tonight. So I said, I'm in the trenches with you. I know the emotional roller coaster. I can definitely relate to you on every level on the emotions of being a hitter because it is so hard. And I can tell you what worked for me. But there's not one way for everybody. Some guys are very technical and they train a certain way, and that works for them. My job is to find out what works for them, and if I can give them that little something that gives them hope. We all need hope, Rich. Played with some great players in this game. And even the greatest players I've played with, I've seen with that look in their eye when they're 0 for their last 10, thinking, am I ever going to get a hit again? So we're all vulnerable. We all have our insecurities. Players that were much better than me, they still, I talk to them and pick their brain. And, oh, yeah, Booney, I've been there where I didn't think I was ever going to get a hit again. And that's why this game's so unbelievable. And when you're struggling to come out of it and to succeed, it's so fulfilling because it's so hard and what you have to go through to get to the other side. But I'm in the grind now. It's been a lot. I remember the first day. It's like, well, what do I do as a hitting coach? We got all the red tape and the interviews out of the way. Now what do I do? And I just kind of got back to basics. I said, the first thing I do, and this is the tact I'm taking, is I'm going to pretend I'm playing tonight. I'm going to put myself in hitter mode. What would I do as Bret Boone, the player? So I go to the ballpark. First thing I do is I want video on starting pitching tonight, because we're going to start breaking this down in tendencies. And I'll pick a team. Let's say I'm looking at video of his last outing 5 days ago. Well, I'm going to pick a player on that team that I think is a lot like me. How did he approach him? How did he approach him in the first inning? How did he approach him in the 6th inning when there were runners on base? The only difference is now I've got to look at a bunch of different players. How would he pitch him? How would he pitch him? So that's how the basic way that I'm going about it is train like I'm going to hit tonight. And then when my teammates have a question, I'll give them my insight on what I saw and what I think. But there's no magic to this. These are big league players. Like I said, I've won a World Series. So it's not like I'm in low A ball molding players.
Right.
A lot of these
like when you were assistant for the Oakland A's.
Right. And there's a real cool part of doing that, but that's a different job. When you get to the big leagues, you're supposed to be a finished product. You're a pro. Right. Now it's how do I help you to get to the spot you need to succeed? Sure. You know how to do it. You've been there, done that. Marcus Semien, I don't have to tell Marcus Semien what's it like to have a great year. Marcus
knows.
Semien, he hit 40 home runs in the big leagues. Corey Seager is a superstar.
Right.
He doesn't need Bret Boone to tell him. Jock Peterson has won 2 World Series and been on great teams. I don't need to tell him.
Biggest stage.
Right. I just need to, maybe he needs to hear something from me at the right time. That's right, Booney.
Just lock it back in.
I'm here. That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm going to try to do. And in the meantime, it's a learning process. I'm still
for you and them.
Absolutely. They're learning me. They're learning what when I say, what does that mean? What to translate that? And I've got to get their feedback,
right,
and find out, but my basic premise is watch the game. Your first at bat sets up your second at bat.
Sure.
Talk to your teammates, communicate. That's so important. I think great teams with great offensive really communicate with one another, because at the end of the day, all these coaches, what I call us now, we're background players. We're here to help you in any capacity. But once
you're there to support the hitters.
But once that game starts and you have a ton of success, that has little to nothing to do with me. That's all them.
Okay, let's stay on our agenda here, because Evan has made this wonderful countdown that you like so much.
I love the countdown. I love it. Let's go. Let's get to reporting for duty. Okay.
Bret's phone blows up. Let's stay there for just a second. Most random person that you heard from. Person that surprised you most, that they had your number, got a hold of you. Just give me some of the names. Like who did you hear from? Teammates, friends. Impress us with who reached out to you.
Oh, I don't even know.
I know you talked to Edgar, right?
Yes.
Because you guys talked about, what this job is like.
Well, not really talked. It was a lot of text with Edgar.
Texter, okay.
More of Booney, this is pretty cool, and buckle up. You're back in the game.
Okay.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, so many people. The list is so long. I don't want to say, oh, that's random.
No, just make us.
Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods didn't
text you.
Me. A random guy, a friend of mine. Don't know him that well. We did an appearance together 3 or 4 years ago that I thought was cool. Jim Riggleman.
Really?
Called me, the ex-skipper.
Yeah.
Said, Booney, you're built for this. Congratulations. That's cool.
Pretty good. That's
cool. Going, me and Riggleman, we've never played on the same team.
Right.
I've played against Jimmy a lot of times when he was in the other dugout.
Right.
But I thought that was cool. A guy that you don't expect.
Very classy.
Yeah, I expect my brother to call me. I expect, my good friends to call me. But Riggleman, I thought it was professional.
Sex. You're going to hear from
classy.
Sexy, right?
I'm going to hear from Sexy. I'm going to talk to Edgar. I'm going to talk to Mike Cameron. I'm going to talk to to ex-teammates of mine. I'm going to talk to all my family members and my friends. You
well,
know,
the
I got
people that
random
we've had on the podcast, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. But the guys like a Jimmy Riggleman, it's like, yeah, that's kind of cool, that he took his time out of his day to just say something nice. And stuff like that meant a lot to me. I thought it was really cool.
Well, I thought it was interesting. I was at Walter's Sports Bar outside of Nationals Park, and just two random fans. I was just sitting there eating lunch by myself, waiting for the gates to open. Two random fans were talking about you.
Yeah, that's, as life goes on, I've learned so much but I've learned also one thing is with my personality, especially, don't take yourself too serious. And you find as your journey goes on, and I don't like to get sappy, you know me, but for me to sit there and that's what came to my mind. It's like, why are you here? What's going on? I'm here because I'm supposed to be here. For whatever reason, I'm right where I need to be. And it's very humbling in a lot of ways. But I put that uni on and I'm sitting in that big league dugout and it hit me. It's like, this is my world. This is my life.
This is your calling.
It's all I've ever done. And
Right.
it put me at ease. Like, this is where I'm supposed to be right now. And I don't have any I've never had an agenda. You know that. You deal with me in this podcast. There's no agenda. I didn't set out in this podcast to be Joe Rogan. I did this podcast because I needed something to get back into the game, and it turned into what it is. And now I'm the hitting coach in Texas, and I don't know where I'm going next. I really don't, and I don't think about it. I know that I'm the Texas Rangers. I'm here to try to help this team get us, be a tiny part of going to the postseason. We'll figure it out. I'm with Boch. I couldn't be with a better dude.
Nope.
And that's a new theme here. We got dudes.
All right, well, so let's
get into that on a later podcast.
Well, let's follow our little lead here. So, reporting to duty. Last we talked to you, you were jumping on a plane, you were flying to meet the team in Boston. Hadn't been announced yet. Just a very few knew what was going on. Right. Give me what happens when you land. You get to the hotel. I know we chatted very briefly that you went and Butch came down to see you. Tell me about reporting for duty.
Butch was great. Gave him a hug. I said, he goes, son, do you want to get some rest? I said, absolutely. I went to bed, slept great, woke up, came downstairs, and we had it all set up for a little room for us with little breakfast burritos. This is going to kill me, by the way. This diet, it's really throwing me off.
I was going to ask you that.
It's throwing me off.
It's throwing me off again.
I mean, it was big leagues, always the big leagues, but they've upped their game. Since I left, they've upped their game. There's food on top of food on top of food. I just want to tell people, go away. I need my overnight oats. I need chicken breasts. And I can't even go buy the lunch. As a player, I could handle it because I had stuff to do.
Right.
I wasn't there to snack. But as a coach, I go by and there's snacks everywhere. I just try to grab a protein shake and keep moving. And as much coffee as I can drink keeps me out of the food. But I came down and then, we had a little chat. I started to meet the guys as they came through the lobby one by one and went to the ballpark early and started my first day. That's how it started. Seeing old guys in Boston, seeing some of the security guys that were still there from the time I played. So that kind of brings back some memories, and that's cool.
Tell me about the other coaches on the staff.
Great. I had to be very aware that, somebody was let go and I went into their position and they probably had buddies in that room and change sometimes difficult. I don't know too many guys personally on that roster. And I wanted to be very respectful of what they were going through right there. And they might've lost a buddy that the gentleman that got released when I came in to fill the position. So I wanted to be cognizant of that. I wasn't going to come in and, but the guys, at first it was like everything else. I know Mike Maddox, know the Maddox brothers very well, played with Greg, played against Mike for years. He's been in the game forever as a pitching coach. So that was a guy that I could relate to right away. And I saw him and a bunch of the other guys I didn't really know, but I get intel from other people and they call me, oh, you'll love this guy and you'll love him. He's great. And to be honest with you, everybody's been great. They've been very welcoming, and slowly I'm kind of, I'm one of the boys now, but it was one of those things. I didn't want to go in and just make it about me. I want to fit in with these guys. Once again, the theme is I'm just a background player, baby.
That's it. All right, Mr. Background Player, who, by the way, my family got a kick out of the fact that Bret Boone was described as either Aaron's older brother gets a job in Texas or podcaster Bret Boone is going back to the big leagues. Those are the two that we love the most.
That is funny. That is funny. Did
From
you ever
podcaster
think?
To coach.
I was just doing an interview before we got on with Bob Nightingale. And I said to Bob, because Bob's been around forever with me, right. And I used to call him Matt Williams because he looks like Matt Williams. He goes, Booney, there's only 3 guys that call me that: Sean Dunston, Fernando Valenzuela, and Bret Boone. Every time you'd run into me, hey, Matty, how you doing? And I've always loved Bob. He's always been great to me.
Good guy.
And I was telling him about it, and I said, Bob, in your wildest dreams, if we went to Vegas and looked at the odds, what were the odds when I was sitting in the Minnesota Twins visiting Clubhouse? Mariners were in town. That's where I always saw Nightingale.
Right, because he lives up there.
Hey, Matty, how you doing? And I said, if I said to you, what are the odds of 20 years from now, I'm going to be calling you, Bob Nightingale, to come on my Bret Boone podcast? What are the odds? Is it 1 million or 1 billion to 1? And he just started laughing. I said, life's crazy, man. Life is crazy. This is where we started this podcast, and who knows where the hell it was going. And did it lead me to the next? Who knows? But
yes, it did. No, if anybody asks you, this podcast is responsible.
Oh, it's the whole thing.
It's the whole thing. Please help me out here.
No, but it was a part of my journey, man.
Right.
Part of my journey. And where we're going next, no agenda. Who knows?
Who knows? Let's take it one day at a time. Let's talk about going back into the clubhouse, because you go to Boston, it's visiting clubhouse. You've been there before, obviously, throughout your career, but just give me what was going through your mind when you walk through those doors and you go into that cramped little
the first thing
clubhouse.
I'm thinking is, how much different is it when I was here last? A lot different, because it's always been, the Wrigley's, the Bostons.
They're old school.
They're old school. They don't have the space that these new state-of-the-art stadiums have, so they got to do what they can do. And they've blown out some walls. I walked in, and the training room used to be right there, and now it's the equipment guy's room. And my locker was right around this court. Wait a minute, that wall's been blown out. Now there's a kitchen in the back with the training room behind the wall that used to be just a brick wall. The shower, I walked in the shower. I said, the shower used to be right there. Now it's off to the right. So there were a lot of changes that went on. We didn't have our own cage then. Now we got our own cage there. So a lot of change. That's the first thing you do. Every stadium. I just fast forward to, then we went on to Detroit, and I played in old Detroit, but I played in new Detroit too. And I thought, wonder how different this is going to be. I walked. It's a little different. It's the same, but a couple walls are blown out here and there. So that's the first thing I do when I go to a stadium that I've played a lot of games at is, oh, how different is it? And then I look around. My locker was right there. That's the first thing, oh, that's where my locker used to be. And then you're a coach, so you leave and you get out of the player's way and you go back to the coach's room. But those are the little things that were hitting me, just going back to Boston, going back to Detroit.
Being back in the traveling party, being back on a charter, being back on a bus. Which bus are you taking? You taking 1, 2, or 3?
Oh, I go in the staff bus. Yeah. The first road trip, going from Boston to Detroit, I think back and I remember my hitting coaches. And it wasn't every trip, but once in a while, when the time was right, when you thought for the moment, this is what I should do, I'd have a hitting coach come back. And it could be a real rough stretch or it could be a really good stretch. But it was always the right time. You don't just go back there. Yeah.
You're talking about the plane. Okay.
Yeah. So I popped back and, kind of got in the time machine a little bit, and I walked back. Guys were playing cards and just doing what we do back there. And it was cool for me. I'm like, man, I remember these days. And now I'm for some reason, Paul Molitor came into my mind, who was a hitting coach of mine in 2004 in Seattle. And I remember Paulie was very reserved and very respected, but very quiet.
Mm-hmm.
But once in a while, Paulie'd come back and he just kind of, hey, Booney, what's going on? And they wouldn't stay long.
Right.
But I remember how we used to be as players. We used to get excited when our guy'd come back, and he didn't overstay his time.
It's like a great waiter. He's there enough, but not too much.
He just made an appearance. So I went back there and just, the first thing, of course, Booney, sit down. No, I'm not a player. I'm a background player. But it's cool seeing them in their element, just city to city and just talking the game. And hey, we lost 2 out of 3 in Boston. We got another series. Let's get it going. And I don't get into the conversation. That's their time. That's the current player's time. And
if anything, I think this podcast has taught us that you've had questions. Oh, Booney, look at all this going on in the game right now. And I think through meeting all the people we've talked about in this podcast and our conversations that you've kind of come away with this. That was my game, my game. It's their game now. It's Nick Allen's game now. And I respect it because my dad would tell me the game's not as good. My grandpa would tell me the game's not as good, but it's my generation.
Right. And if you nailed me down, my generation's the best. That's what we all think.
Right.
But there's somewhere in the middle that they all can get together for that perfect storm, or the best of all generations. And that's the real
and if you respect it,
find. Sure.
And we've worked that out on the show.
Have to respect
you have to respect the current game. It's their game.
You got to change with the times. You don't change with the game and you just resist everything. It's like this game will steamroll you and run you over, and you'll be an afterthought. So embrace the things. We've got things. This current generation and my generation combined, man, that's where the magic is. I can learn from these young players, just listening to them talk. Sometimes I'll just sit there and listen. And like, wow, that's it. And if I hear something that I think is real interesting, I'll say, explain this to me a little bit. That's really cool. I wish I would have had that when I was playing. I think that could be a real beneficial tool. And then I'll say something and it might click with a young player and go, Booney, that's great. I said, this is what I did. Wow, that might be able to help him with his current game. So there's a magical mix between generations where that's what I think sometimes as the older generation, we get caught up in, we know it all because we've been there, done that. I'm finding you can learn from the younger generation. And
you have to trust them. You have to trust them, Bret.
Right. I think being with, my son and my son-in-law who were playing in this generation, that if I listen to them enough, of course they come to me for all the experience, but what's going on in your game today? I've had some real interesting conversation with Jake as a minor league player. I've had some really interesting conversations with Nick as a current big league player, and it's a little bit different, but it's pretty interesting. And now we can collide my knowledge and experience with what they're going through currently. And if you can find a healthy mix in there, I think that's where the gold is.
Being tied in to the game emotionally as a father with Jakey or with Nicky Knox as a father-in-law. Somebody asked me like, well, how is he going to relate to the players? And he said, actually, he's going to do really well because he's been living this. And it's emotionally different because it's your kids watching Jake. And we talk about Jake all the time and how proud we are of what he's become. And then you talk about Nicky Knox and you look at the season that he's had, and you've lived this, but you've lived this with family members. So I think it sets you up well to be able to talk to this generation of players. But for you being able to relate to these players of this generation, I've told people that Bret Boone knows how to talk to this generation of players because he's had to do with his son, Jake, and being a professional ball player. And then he's also dealt with this with a big leaguer like Nick Allen. So this isn't completely out of left field for you. Right.
This isn't foreign for me. I haven't been on the ground living it for years with these guys. So, I'm going to have a lot of information coming my way. But I have a little bit of I've been through the 101 class. I know the basics. Now it's living and experiencing it is really gonna, help me be the best hitting coach, the best mentor I can be.
Because you've done it already with those two.
Right.
And
right.
with their friends and other people. So I had no problem. I told everybody he's going to be able to speak that language as well as anybody else, if not better, because of the personal connections that he has in a fatherly way to this generation. Putting your uniform back on, sing your name in a locker. Anything?
Not really. That wasn't that big of a deal for me. I mean, cool. But really, if I'm being honest, it's not like, oh, I saw my name and I'm tearing up.
Well, it's not like the first time, but it is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's just
like
kind of
the first time. You remember the first time you had your name in a big league locker room with the locker.
I remember.
That was a big deal.
Right. And then your first All-Star game and
yeah,
you got your name and it's different because there's an All-Star next to it. That was cool. But the
was
one
it deja vu?
The one with Coach next to it wasn't that big of a deal. I'll be
honest. Was it deja vu though?
No, it's different. It's different.
So this is a little bit similar, but just a little bit different because you're not a player. Now you're the old man.
Yeah. I tell these guys all the time. I said, in my brain, for me, I stick at about 33 years old. That's what I think I am.
Right.
And you realize you're not. Well, your kids will let you know. You're
right.
33, Dad. You're old. And I said, yeah, or whatever.
By the way, how has the family been reacting to you not being home? How's Milo the dog? I've been worried.
Woo. That's the guy. I miss him. They've been fine. As much as you worry about everybody, I got to make sure I have. It runs smooth. Sometimes
are they watching the games? Are they?
I asked him. I said, hey, it might even be nice me being away.
I can believe it.
Yeah, they watch the game. It cracks me up.
That.
It cracks me up. My wife's watching the game. She knows nothing about baseball, and my mom's watching the game. I said, why are you watching the game? What are you gonna watch me coach? Occasionally, if you the camera goes on you for a second, hey, there's Bret. What do you do today? Well, I don't know. She'll tell me you need to shave, or why are you wearing those glasses?
That's what I've been getting. My wife, my family has been like, where is he getting those glasses?
I need glasses.
I know, but they don't like them.
Which ones don't they like?
They don't like. Rigney said that your black glasses look like the birth control glasses they give you when you go to boot camp.
Oh, I got rid of the black ones. Now I'm wearing a more clear rimmed.
Okay. Yeah, he hated
and
those.
By the way, it's all about if we win or lose, by the way.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
So we lost a game in the black glass, so I went out.
Boom.
Then we lost 2 in a row. So I broke out the clear rim and we just won 2. So I'll be donning the clear rim tonight.
And we have.
I wish I didn't have to wear them, but
you're old.
At night I have to be able to see.
Right.
I can see fine. I can drive without them.
Right.
I can live life without them at night.
Following the baseball.
But if I need to really see, I need to put them
on. We were wondering, are you wearing an Aaron Boone watch?
No.
We want you to wear the big gaudy Aaron Boone watch.
Well, if they would like to, the watch companies out there, if you would like to have your people call my people, we'll work a deal. But as of right now, I'm not a watch guy.
I know.
I wear one once in a while with a suit. But,
right.
Yeah, I'm not a watch guy on the daily.
But I did have a couple people ask because it's fascinating how many people pay attention to Aaron's watch.
Yeah, that's why he sent me one for free.
Right,
because he's a cheapskate, so he wouldn't give them to him if he had to whip out.
Oh man! So if Oris is listening, Booney would be willing to wear a watch.
We can work a side deal.
Oris would be Oris. I met the people from Oris. Actually, they love your brother. So
yes,
if they want to send a watch, But they show you on TV. The other day they were doing Boone trivia. Did you know that?
No.
The Texas broadcast I think was doing Boone trivia. It was about you. It was about Aaron, Bob, Ray, Daniel Boone, everybody named Boone. So they did Boone trivia on the show.
Yeah, I'm sure in New York they're going to have a Boone trivia question.
I can't wait.
Or 2.
Yeah, no, they did a whole Boone trivia the other day. What's your number?
78. No rhyme or reason. I think it's kind of protocol in Texas. The coaches just so the players don't have any. There's no problem if you're a coach. You just and I didn't buck it. I threw an 8 in there. I gave him a number and I said 8, and I'm thinking, well, Gramps and Dad were 8, so
right,
8 in some capacity, so 78.
all right. So now we can tell everybody it's an homage to.
You'll probably never
Ray.
see me with that uniform on because I'm always wearing the slicker top. Yeah.
So
as a coach, I'm not a jersey guy.
So you're an Aaron Boone guy where you never wear a jersey.
Yeah, no.
Are you going to cut off the sleeves like Arnie?
No, I don't want to make them look bad.
Because the guns are a little bit bigger in the Bret Boone house than the Aaron Boone house, right?
A little tighter.
Yeah.
Tighter. I got to make up for my lack of height.
Who's got more gray hair, you or him?
I haven't. Aaron never takes his hat. See, I'm not a hat guy, so I
right. That's why we were wondering about the hat. Did you notice? If for those of you watching on YouTube, I did go buy a Texas Rangers lid.
I would say gray hair. I don't know. I don't know if he's just fermented it or not. I don't know because I tell my wife all the time. I look in the mirror. I said, it looks blonde to me. And she goes, "Oh, tell yourself what you want to tell yourself." So I don't know who has the gray hair.
Okay, meeting the team for the first time. I thought it was interesting. I saw the story about Jock Peterson and his bats.
Yeah, he's a bat guy.
He's a bat guy.
He's like, boom, you swung ash. I said, that's all we all swung. He goes, I love it. He goes, we got to get an order. We got to get a dozen in here for you with the ash unfinished. I said, let's do it. That'll rally the troops. Let's rally the troop with some C271 ash.
And it was very interesting because they did a whole story about him because that's one of those things where only another big leaguer can understand how special those bats were. And you were very particular in which are your gamers and you separate them. He does kind of the same thing.
I told him, I said, don't go too far down the rabbit hole because then you'll start to blame everything on the bats and then you're a basket case. And then you retire. So don't get too far down.
Okay. But just little things like that. Tell me about meeting the team for the very first time. Obviously, they kind of knew who you were.
Yeah, some of them do. Some of them do. Like I said, the Evan Carters and the Wyatt Langfords of the world, they were 2 or 3
right
when I was retiring. But you got the Marcus Simeons, the Seagers, the DeGroms, the Evalde, they've been around. They're in their mid-30s and they remember. But yeah, it was it's been really cool meeting all the different personalities and seeing how they work and
right.
And
I thought Marcus,
a couple of guys, I'll say, yeah, you're a psycho. I know your type. And they'll laugh, and I'll go, hey.
I was the same.
Sometimes there's hits in being a psycho, and other guys have a real cool, common demeanor or calm demeanor. And some guys are meticulous, some guys aren't. Some guys hit a ton, some guys hit a little bit. I'm learning all that stuff.
I thought Marcus had a real nice quote about you that he's seen you play. He knew who you were. Very similar, and he was really looking forward to working with you.
Yeah. You probably right out of the gate, you're going to be probably a little more right away. The Jock Petersons of the world, a little older, been there, done that, a little bit more he's got more experience. So it's easier to relate to me probably than the new guy or the young kid that's grown up in this generation. But those guys, the Langford sky's the limit. And Evan Carter, we saw what he saw a couple years ago in the World Series. Really talented kid. He's been beat up by the injury bug last
we talked about that on the podcast
year or so. So he's but just as kind and as nice. He's Nicky Knox. He's Nick Allen. He's just another really well-mannered kid that's got some talent. So hopefully I can help him.
First game back, being in the dugout. What was it like?
Great. Trying to find out where to sit.
I was going to ask you, where are you posting up?
Especially in Boston, you got the tiny little dugout. We got to Detroit. Now I could I had a lot of choices to pick my spot. I always want to be in position to watch the hitter from good side angle. But in Boston, it was a challenge because it's small. All right, I know Boach sits there. Boom, I'm trying to feel. All right, bench coach is over there. All right, I think when they hit, I'm going to be on the top rail here. But then when we're not hitting, maybe I can go to a more place where I'm out of the way a little bit. So that was the biggest thing. The lean, how am I going to lean? Kind of, does that look good? Does it look awkward? I've never leaned before. As a player, I'm just whatever. I'm walking around, I'm talking, and I'm not leaning anywhere. Now it's kind of, I got to lean, have that look, have that that look
that you're studying.
Yeah.
Because they're looking to you for.
Those are all the nuances, baby. That's the learning
No,
process.
listen, it's what I told you when I did that stage show the other day. They told me where to keep my hands, so it gives you a presence.
Yeah.
So people will listen.
And really, I say that, but I really don't care, Rich. No, I'm just looking to help these kids.
But but there is
you're aware because it's
right.
different. It's different being at a
well, it's like being at the Resolute desk. If you're the president, you don't put your feet up on it.
Yeah.
You treat it with respect.
The little
it's a cathedral.
things.
You treat it with respect. So where did you end up standing? Are you standing next to Boch, near Boch, away from Boch, away from
Boston?
From
I was just down from Bruce,
right?
And in Detroit, I was farther away because it was a huge
right,
and I could stay in my zone. I like having my paperwork, the relievers, my little notes that I have in the relievers. So for anything, it's for me when he's coming in. Now I'm prepared. Let's see. From what I've seen on this tape, and there's a lot more for me to see. In case I got a question, what do you think? But I think he's going to do this, this, and this. That's my thing, is be ready to answer a question.
What did they come up? So you could be near the Gatorade, near the water, near the seeds, near the gum. Are you eating in the dugout? Are you chewing gum? What are you doing?
I'm trying not to dip. I want to be a good influence on young kids out there. Just say no to tobacco. I dip a little. I'm throwing a little gum in, some seeds.
Okay.
Back in the gum seeds.
Right.
Lesser of three evils.
But you got to wear a lid, right?
Got to wear a lid. Got to be professional.
I know you hate wearing lids.
I don't like them. They're too high.
Oh yeah, because
I like the
low. This is the gamer.
Yeah, I like the low old.
I don't think.
One.
Yeah,
they don't have them. I'm
going
to see if I can get a special made one.
Tell my friends from Newer up in Buffalo that that's the second plug we want for Boone now that he's in the big leagues. All right, big question. In all seriousness, what has changed? It's so familiar, but there's changes in the game. Is there something that jumps out to you that has changed in the last decade? That was a surprise to you.
Players get there way earlier than we used to, but they're out of there way quicker than we used to. They've upped their game. Travel, accommodations, they've always been first class, but I mean, they're first class now. The traveling party, much bigger than it used to be.
Yeah.
There's a coach for everything. You got anything you want at your disposal. Masseuse, everything, strength guys all over the place. We had one strength guy, 2 trainers. We've got and I think that's good. I think at the highest level,
it's great.
It's like you want to have, you don't want to be thin, and it's great.
The way support the game staff is incredible.
Yeah, and I just noticed the guys get there to the ballpark really early.
Yeah,
they were asking
they have to go
when
eat
do you normally come to the ballpark, Brett, when you were playing? I said, well, on the road, probably 2, at home, like 3. And I mean, like right now, as soon as I get, I'm going to the ballpark at noon.
Right.
And I'm not that far ahead of the players.
No. Well, they also eat at the ballpark.
Yeah, they eat at the ballpark. And if I had these facilities when I was there, and believe me, the end of my career in Seattle, it was pretty nice. I'd come to the ballpark. We had a chef, and he'd make me anything I wanted. But it's like they've already made everything. You got 10 choices. Go ahead, get what you want.
Take your pick.
Yeah.
Take your pick.
And as much as things have changed, when you really look at it, a lot of it's still me against you.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you got to remember that. As much as things just changed, it's still you in the box and that pitcher on the hill. And
pretty cool stuff.
Let's find a way to beat his brains in. And I don't mean that literally. I mean it.
No, listen, I'm locked in. I'm watching, looking for
We're here to kick somebody's butt, and he's 60 feet away.
Love the
we
swagger.
Take no prisoners. We step on their neck, and we keep it on their neck.
Love
and then,
every
you know
minute
what?
of it.
And then we can leave and pick your own friends and come back and do it again.
That's going to do it for the Bret Boone podcast. We'll let him get to work. Again, we're still working out the details of the podcast.
Hold on. Let me say it.
Yeah.
Make sure you like, share and subscribe. Love saying that. I should say it at the beginning, but
you should really. And
I do that to everybody. Like,
has anybody yelled at you from the stands about, hey, listen to the podcast?
Couple.
Okay, I like that.
I'm not going to say a ton, but a couple.
Okay, I can't wait to see what happens when you get to
like,
Texas.
share, and subscribe. That's my answer. When they say,
you haven't been home
podcast,
yet.
I say make sure you like and subscribe.
Oh, by the way, bonus question: dealing with the media now that you have been on this side of the microphone, a little different?
No, easy. And it seems like I've had a ton of interviews.
Right.
Then I go back as a player. I did this every day.
Right.
For 162. Of course, in the very beginning, there's going to be a little bit of, some questions. People want some answers. I get it. Probably when I go to New York, they're going to have a lot of questions.
I want that picture of you and Arnie.
But, this is about the players winning games.
Yeah.
And I think that'll wear off after we get kind of grounded and get into this game.
Hey, hopefully
so at the beginning, that's what, you're going to get a little fanfare. But what did I start this off? In the end, I'm just going to be a background player, and at this stage of my life, it ain't a bad gig.
Hopefully, we never see your name in the paper because the guys are raking. Because
right.
It's
Rich.
Well.
It's game one. We rattle off 16 hits.
I
the
saw
Boone
that.
effect.
Yes,
I'm laughing. I'm like, oh yeah,
it's all.
I
Bret.
just came in, and I said I had little to nothing to do with that. But I said it's all downhill from here. And then we lost a couple, and I'm like, now I'm the reason we lose. No,
what is it? What's a Boone going to?
Right. It's
there
funny.
you go. All right, Boone,
world.
I'll let you get to work. We'll let you know. Watch us on social media. We'll let you know when the next podcast is. We'll figure it out around Bret's schedule.
Yeah, we're out here Tuesday the 12th, I believe.
Yeah,
or is
you don't know. You got to look in your. You got to look at the MLB at Bat app to know what hotel you're waking up in.
We will be out there. We'll be letting you know. But yeah, this podcast will roll on. Maybe it'll be changed a little bit, scaling back a little bit in the short term, but we'll come out. I really like the guest. It makes the podcast. It makes it feel really important. I love it. And filling in for Johnny Carson tonight on the Tonight Show. I like it. So we might be whipping that out.
Tell Arnie I'd like him to co-host one day. Jump in for you. I like Nikki Knox too.
Yeah,
I like a little bit of that. I like Olerud. I like Sexy to jump in. I want Cammy to jump in.
I'll handle that.
I'm just giving you all the people. Well, you're busy. You got to get to work. You got to get there before the players stay after them. Yeah. Anyway, we'll continue this podcast coming up. We'll let you know. But for Bret and I, that's going to do it for this week. Bret, remind everybody.
Like and subscribe.
No, like, share, and subscribe.
Like, share, and subscribe.
See,
like and subscribe's cool though. It's got a
news, traffic, and weather together every 15 minutes. Like,
share, and subscribe. That's good. Now that's professional.
Right there you go. All right, that's boys. The podcast. See you, everybody.
Take care.